Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on this lovely afternoon, evening, wherever you may be within the world. We have ourselves another lovely show match here today. It's going on between Team Poland and Team Turkey. And Rain, first of all, lovely to have you. Thank you for joining me here today for this one. But this is going to be a really fun game overall because we're just 3 weeks away from having the Conference Cups for the EMEA teams. These are both teams that really need to do everything they need to do to prepare in this situation. Specifically, Team Turkey, who has been honestly really pushing it and training over the course of the last several weeks.
Yeah, we've been hearing that Turkey has been running double blocks on weekends, so this team is absolutely locked in, ready to make their way through that Conference Cup, because like you said, there's only a few more weeks here until we get into that EMEA, and both of these teams have some really fantastic players on them, a lot of talent on both Poland and Turkey, so I think that here in this show match, this first to four show match, we're definitely going to get to see a whole lot of that talent on the screen.
Now, 100%, and a lot of these players very familiar to the World Cup landscape as well. A lot of members of the team Turkey and Team Poland have played in previous squads, so that'll be really fascinating to see how that goes down. But I'm more curious to see a lot of the newer players, because if there is a squad that is representing a lot of newer people, it really is Team Turkey. The only people that are still playing between both teams is just Farouk and Lethal. Everyone else is brand spanking new, getting their first opportunity at the World Cup. And that's what's been really exciting for me, because 3 years in Overwatch, Rain, that is a very long time. Having a 3-year career in Overwatch on like a pro level, that's difficult to have nowadays, it feels like.
Yeah, we definitely don't see a lot of those like mainstay people making their way through it, staying at such a competitive level. And we've been seeing some of these World Cup teams kind of bringing people out of retirement because they're still kind of that top level here. But I think for Turkiye, where you're able to bring in this kind of new, fresh talent, the passion is definitely going to be higher than ever for these players. So getting a chance to really show up for their country on their home stage has got to be so exciting. And to be able to play alongside some of these kind of veteran players, I think is going to be a fantastic experience overall for this roster.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fantastic. I'm excited for it. Team Poland in its own right has quite a couple new players representing, but they brought back the same back line before, but they had eggs involved in this one, so it'll be fantastic to see. But Rain, we're ready to get this day started in the show match, and what better place to start things out than hanging over to Lijiang Tower, the tried and true, the map we know better than any other in this game.
Yeah, that's so true. We're gonna have some hero bans coming in as well. So going to work standard, same as we are all familiar with here. It is going to be a Zarya ban coming out, and then it's gonna be a Tracer ban from the side of Poland here. So two kind of mainstay heroes that are getting banned out right away here in map number 1. So I'm excited to see what that's going to mean for the compositions for both of these teams, because we do have, maybe I don't want to say one trick, but a specialist on the side of Turkiye. Dirt is on the bench for this map, so not going to be seeing any Roadhog shenanigans just yet, but there's lots more time for that to make an appearance.
Yep, and definitely more time to make an appearance as we have a pause sitting by. But it'll be really interesting to see, because one thing we love to talk about, and honestly waffle about all the time, is how... Well, that's on screen now. So, what I was going to say is we waffle a lot about how... different regions, different countries do have a lot of different play styles. Like, when we go and watch a lot of EMEA Overwatch, it feels significantly different from watching, like, South American Overwatch, where everyone normally kind of plays with each other, so they have certain styles they tend to go down. And I think this in its own right is going to be a clash of styles on its own, because at least what we're seeing right now, if we go out the gate here, the Queen versus the Diva.
Ooh, I am interested to see it. Junker Queen feels like she's kind of finding her way back into a semi-meta composition here, but that Diva really just been a mainstay so far, and yeah, Poland is going to run out with this Junker Queen. Interesting, China over on this Pharah as well. I know that he has a very scary Pharah here, but up against Lethal on this Emre, and then Cabby on the Diva might be a little bit hard to necessarily find those picks that you're looking for.
Yeah, will definitely be a little difficult. We'll see how things end up going down, though, as you see eventually Team Poland trying to rotate their way over towards the point, take things over. Cabby over on the D.Va is going to try to create an entry for some bodies to get in, but is kind of just getting hard pressure on the outside, eventually going to cause temporary stalling. But again, with the Queen and Ashe afar looking your way, it's so hard to force your way in, and with Lethal down, unfortunately, you have to back out of this one.
Yeah, nice rotation there from Poland. They recognize exactly how their comp needs to play up into this D.Va. The D.Va, of course, looking for a little bit more space, especially with Flatix over on this. Genji, you want to be able to find some dives here, but it's already so much aggression come out from Poland. They really want to extend this lead as much as they can.
Yeah, exactly, because this is a team that can deal with pressure extremely well. You can play from short range, you can play from long range as well. That's kind of the gimmick of having things like the Pharah and the Ashe alongside the Jungle Queen. You can really play either style. This is really going to be about Team Turkey trying to find a pick early on, and that comes down to Flat and Lethal being able to pull something like that off, as they're going to move in, try to bring in some pressure, but Flat does go down a little bit early. Fight not over quite yet, though, as keeping Cabby alive is of the utmost importance, but ICAV now gets rid of their second one of the fight, and all you can do is fly away here if your Cabby is going to try to get out with a mech. Unfortunately, will do so unsuccessfully.
This poke damage that's coming through from the side of Team Poland is just a little bit too much for Cabby and Flatix to kind of deal with. A lot of this defense matrix kind of being forced out early. Really hard to kind of get any space against this Pharah and this Ashe. And now ICAP has this Bob ready to go. That's going to be one more angle of damage here for the side of Turkiye to try and deal with. But the support ults for Turkiye are coming online. Potentially a way to break onto this point. Farouk really leading in that sound barrier charge. So you're going to have at least some ults to trade out here. But I do think that this Bob from ICAP could be disastrous.
Yep, aggressive sound barrier gonna be thrown out here. The Bob directly to follow, but ICAP and Flipper both burnt instantaneously. This is your chance right now if your Team Poland to come back into this one. You invest that Consider Rush and the sound barrier to do it, but honestly, you needed to win this fight. It feels worth it, as they're going to try to clean up the last couple of bodies. Max still hanging in there, trying to sustain over on the point. Get this thing to 99. Hope that some other team can get back, but that will not happen. 95 will be the extent. But Flipper coming up to a sound barrier on this one, and China as well, having that barrage available.
Yeah, there's lots here for Poland to try and work their way back into this point. And of course, at 95%, they just need one more fight win to pick up the first point here on Lijiang. But you are walking into some DPS ultimates that'll be online for the side of Turkiye. This override protocol, though, Lethal not even going to need it. That's the beauty of this Emre. You can put out so much consistent damage. Of course, you get value from the ultimate as well. But yeah, just the damage that Turkiye is putting out right now is what's going to allow them to hold this choke point a little bit longer. But you gotta be worried about this barrage that is coming in from China. He's, of course, going to be watching for Cabby in this D.Va. Don't want to have all of that ultimate just eaten up.
Yep, right now, it's Ermac that needs to kind of play the safest right here, as Farouk just gets pulled in and obliterated, and now Lethal gonna let things loose on Override Protocol, and it's the instant response to try to find literally anything here. Unfortunately, while Flag gets rid of one, they are still heavily outnumbered. Cabby has to let go of that Mac, hope that they can get back inside of it. They will, as the point eventually going to flip over, and Mac is now waiting for the perfect opportunity to let this rip. But with our Mac still being in here, it's gonna be a tough pull as they go for the solo wall. And where are you going, Mac? That's not the point. I guarantee you. And now, with the tank gone, the opening potentially here is China eventually going to be taken care of in somehow, some way. Turkey looking like they're going to force this one back as a little more stall from the supports, as that is crazy. As, yeah, Lethal, buddy. Tracer is banned.
Ooh, yeah, Tracer banned. Yeah, there's gonna be the swap. There we go. Over on to the Sojourn here, but fantastic beat from Flipper at the start of that fight. Really keeping China alive through that that barrage here, and now Max gonna swap over, match the D.Va here. I really think that Poland need to do this to try and find their way back into this.
Yeah, and right now, biggest thing, Farouk trying to get this sound barrier on time, but are losing out on Flat. You have the aggression beginning to come through as you see the rotation over towards the point. You're going to have the overtime have to come through here, and you need to do everything you need to survive if you are Cabby, as Consider Rush can be thrown out here. Touch coming momentarily. Sound barrier is available. This needs to be used right here, right now to try to keep them alive. Lucky to still be in the mech, as here comes the aggression coming through. Boop. Trying to take somebody off the edge. Will not be able to do so, but it is still them falling apart one after another, and with 88% on the board, they're going to take over the point, and realistically, the Bob's out there. No recontention's going to be available, as first round going to go the way of Turkey.
Wow, what a warm-up here for Turkey, as Yeah, the Doomfist swap not quite going to get Poland back over onto that point, but, you know, some initial fantastic rotations coming out from Poland on that Junker Queen composition, getting themselves set up on the point, really just allowing all this poke damage from the Pharah and the Ashe to go in from the angles that Turkey really needed to push onto. So fantastic kind of adjustment here from Turkey. Lethal over on the Emre doing pretty good, but I do think the Sojourn is kind of a nice swap as well. And hey, if you manage to get the Diva swap out from the side of Poland, you know that you're doing something right here. So definitely a fantastic start to this show match here, and I expect that that tempo is going to be kept up as we head over into Garden here. Looks like Flipper is teasing the Jetpack Cat, and yeah, she is going to make an appearance here. The Jetpack Cat and Curricle backline for Poland.
Yeah, that'll be fascinating. Again, when it comes to the cat, Turkey is normally a team that's very familiar with the cat, but Flipper, I feel like I remember talking to Dextron and Flipper playing a little bit of that cat there as well. At least for the time being, it's working out as ICAV gets rid of Ermac, and without Ermac, you just lose a lot of that short-term sustainability that you would normally have. The question is, will they still attempt to touch this point?
Yeah, that's a really interesting swap coming out from Turkey, as well as Flatix is going to move over onto the Echo. So you're going to have a little bit of anti-air potential, but you're also going to be able to control some of that airspace yourself and use that focusing beam on the Diva here. Cabby going to be able to stay in this Mac fight. You can just see that so much damage being put out from Poland. Cabby is just constantly on the back foot.
Yeah, and you see trying to burn down China will eventually be able to find some success, but will be burnt away as a direct result, though. But you take, again, some of that air prints out of there, but Cabby knocked out of the mech. We'll see if it's too little too late, and that it should be, as it's just the supports trying to get out alive. They will be able to do so, but importantly, ICAV is already going to have the Deadeye, and the Cat Noon could be on its way.
Oh, I really hope that it is. It's such a fun combo here. Now, of course, Cabby on this Diva does have that defense matrix to try and eat it up, but you're going to be able to control so much area.
They're doing it.
It's happening right now.
Oh, and they're gonna try to at least get one. Lethal is trying to skin the cat. Eventually, we'll be able to do so as they'll just get out. But if nothing else, this buys more and more time.
Yeah, that's exactly it. More percentage on the board here for Poland. And Turkey are really finding the way into these fights when they go for those hard, fast engages. So definitely want to see some more of that.
Yeah, definitely trying to right now. And Cabby, unfortunately, not going to get that cleanse in time. Taken care of. Now with 60% on the board and counting, this is starting to get a little dangerous. Remember, this is how things really started out. Over back on Night Market as Lethal is sent off the edge as the reset will come through in full.
Ooh, yeah, the team kill here from Poland. And yeah, you're totally right, Hunter. This was Poland exactly on Night Market here. But Turkey were able to kind of hit back fairly quickly. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to find that same opening. They are building up to some ultimates here. The Kitsune Rush from Ermac has opened up a lot of the successful fights for Turkey. And we can see that they're rotating around towards this right room here. So this is going to be a good spot to try and use that.
Yep. And right now, if you're Flipper, I know you're looking for that catnap. You would love to take someone like Lethal away, and it's going to be the solo grab onto Lethal, and Lethal's going to try to drag, but it's not going to work out. They're cleared out. Sound barrier with the double Diva bomb now sitting by, trying to keep them a little bit more space as best they can, but Flipper is still running down bodies one after another. Flat going to send in that bomb, trying to find somebody. It's two bombs to keep the point cleared, unfortunately. Neither going to find any reception. Everyone forced to try to do everything they can to stay on this point, stay alive to the best of their ability. But you're running out of time, running out of players. You are out of ultimates as well. This should be the beginning of the end as they are forcing their way on best they can. Lethal doing everything possible to stay in this fight. Unfortunately, it's not going to be enough. And we went from one back and forth battle to a rather decisive one for Team Poland.
Yeah, I do think that the swap over the Jetpack Cat, although, you know, some fun little, like, alt combos, I think that just the pressure that the Jetpack Cat was really causing for the side of Turkey, in combination with China on that Pharah, it was just a little bit too much for Turkey to try and deal with here. You don't really have, like, a hard hit scan. You have Flatix that is going to be able to, you know, be in the sky and kind of contest those two heroes. And Lethal, of course, on that Sojourn, you get up that railgun, you can pop people out of the sky really quickly, but just the amount of sky control that was coming out from Poland here, it just allowed for so many angles of damage on to Turkey, and that meant that they just could not find their way in. We're going to control center next. This is where we usually see a bit of a swap in the compositions, and Poland really leaning into that. China over on the Mei, and then Max over on this Domina.
Yeah, the Domina's going to be really interesting to work with. Flat, though, I think being on the Venture is maybe the most interesting in my mind. We know it pairs out really well with that Zarya, but you see as Flat almost cuts down 3 people just like that. Vendetta is still so difficult to deal with, but the Maywall does come through. Cabby cut off, will be demeched as a result, and all you can really do is just go on the aggression after that. Unfortunately, it will not work out. The Domina going in control to get things started as Poland, again, going to start out on the right foot.
Yeah, really great control of the space here, trying to find some follow-up. Lethal really trying to stay alive. Will manage to get that slide out. Kabi is going to swap over on to the Ramatra here. So this is looking to take some of those front-to-back fights. And I think that the Ramatra into this Domina is going to work very nicely for Turkiye. Just got to be careful of those Maywalls from China.
Have to be extremely careful in a scenario like that. And already you're worried about ultimates being on the table. Everybody right now is 60+% over on the side of Team Poland. This could be very deadly very quickly, but you see the wall come through, going to cut off Cabby once more. This time on the Ramatra is going to be able to survive, but ICAV going to let it loose, will eventually get rid of Farouk with a little bit of help from that Deadeye. And from there, everyone going to force back. Another fight going the way of Team Poland, and this level of aggression has ramped up.
Yeah, it really has, and they're doing such a great job resetting after every fight. They know exactly where they want to be taking these fights. You have the Mei, you want to control these choke points, so you walk all the way up to Turkiye, but they do have the beat. Oh, the wall! It's incredible.
Yeah, but unfortunately, you lose too early on. It's not gonna matter. As you see the boop over on eggs, they're eventually gonna get back on top, and Cabby, poor Cabby, gonna have to eat to death right there. The supports would love to get out alive. Such a thing, though, is not going to happen as Flipper gets 2 to finish the fight.
Yeah, it needs to be a reset here for the side of Turkiye. Flatix is going to swap over on to that Genji, so off of that Vendetta. Looking to kind of maybe take an angle with Ermac on this Kiriko. The Kitsune Rush ready to go, but again, it's just one falling at the beginning of the fight for Turkiye.
Yeah, and now you have Kitsune Rush. You're simply going to have to force your way in here and try to stack S5, but you also can't stack S5 because you have a Panopticon that is staring you down the face right now. So the question is, what do we do? How do we force our way in here? And Flat might have to go in and take some kind of off angle, but here goes that Kitsune Rush from both sides. Panopticon going to be thrown out there. It's going to catch on to multiple members. And Flat going to be blown up as a result. It's down to Lethal to try to be the hero for their squad to keep it in this one. But Rain, we know one thing. Overtime has now been activated, but still, nobody's to fall over. ICAV having a Deadeye ready to go to try to finish things off, but gets taken out by Cabby. This is still winnable, but unfortunately, no care left sitting by. It's Ermac on the point. Flat would love to make their way back. They'll get one final touch, but after being stunned off, forced away, it's just likely not going to be enough as Team Poland takes it away here to get things started.
Really impressive stuff from Poland. I mean, back-to-back kind of 99% to 0. They definitely got warmed up after that night market map, but definitely some good plays here from Turkey. They just have been having a really hard time kind of opening fights, and unfortunately for them, the aggression that comes through from Poland means that pretty much one pick was coming through for Poland at the beginning of every fight. Flipper on this Lucio. I mean, look, if we didn't get at least one environmental kill from a Lucio on Li Xiang, I would have been disappointed. So at least we got to see one there on Control Center.
Oh, thank goodness for that. That was fantastic. And again, that feels like a... Let that sink in. I feel like that's a really good display of what these two teams like to do and the styles that they kind of go with. And I think for Team Poland, it's really an adjustment of like, hey, we make this really back and forth. We make our adjustments. We're maybe a little more comfortable playing indoors in some of these styles, and it ends up working out phenomenally for them. And one of the things I love to talk about with Overwatch is how important adaptability is, and knowing like, hey, this isn't working. We need to swap to something else and make something else go your way. And I think both teams achieve that to their own separate degrees. Poland definitely just pulled things out and said, hey, we know our style. We want to play close because we saw Lethal and Flat getting away with a lot of stuff back on Night Market, kind of playing back and shooting away. So I love the way Team Poland goes and kind of just makes the map their own.
Yeah, it's a really good point. If you can take that space away from Lethal and Flatix, it's going to take a lot of pressure off of Team Poland. So kind of playing this dominant composition, playing with the Mei as well, and just really kind of pushing forward, not giving any space for free, make Turkey kind of fight for every foot. And that is what really kind of turned the tide in Poland's favor. So excellent start for them. This is, of course, still a few more maps to go. First of all, there's still lots of room here for Turkey to try and turn things around, and they are going to be in control of the map that we go to next, I believe. So that will also be nice for them to kind of control. Lijiang Tower, it's a standard. Everybody plays it a whole lot, but if you want to be able to get a little bit of an advantage, you can try and take us to a map that maybe people don't play all the time. It's always good to have, you know, a little ace up your sleeve. And of course, did mention at the beginning of Lijiang Tower, Dirt on that bench right now, but could be subbed in. And I think that having the advantage of having that kind of specialist role can always come into effect as well.
I think it definitely can, and it'll be fascinating to see with both these teams kind of having the full 7 already available, because most teams have already. I don't know if there's any teams that are playing in the Conference Cups that haven't locked in the roster yet, but these teams definitely have in the last couple of weeks. So we know the 7 that are on display, as we are seeing potential swaps coming through here. Kicking sub players, fair enough. But Dirt's gonna be coming in for Cabby on this one. We'll see how that goes in. Dirt, the tank that I expected, I'm really happy that Cabby got involved, because from everything I saw from those tryouts and Cabby was able to do, I think that is a well-deserved spot to use there. And I think despite the way things going for Team Poland, Cabby did a really good job standing a lot of these fights, taking aggression. It's just really unfortunate that that aggression got kind of taken advantage of once the May came into effect.
Yeah, those May walls doing such a good job splitting the team. Not necessarily just kind of singling out Cabby, but China doing a great job splitting the team entirely. And then that aggression that we mentioned from Team Poland just absolutely collapsing on any of those players that did end up getting split out. So, of course, we do have our map pick here. Not going to be as easy to play the May on this one. We are going to be heading over to Havana for our second map of the series.
Yeah, so we're going back to more long range. I feel like this still kind of plays into the style that ICAV and China were playing a little bit, but it'll be fascinating to see what Lethal pulls out. Because we saw a little bit of that M-Ray earlier. I think maybe it finds a bit more, but depending on the bans, maybe we see the Ashe come back up. Maybe we see the Widowmaker make an appearance as well. Lethal definitely has played quite a little bit of that Widowmaker in the past, so it'll be fantastic to see the route we end up going down. But we did see another sub come through here with Texel coming in for Flipper, so a little bit of a difference over on that support category, which a map like this, you probably get it, because maybe you're deciding to go like, okay, maybe we throw in something like an Alari, maybe we throw in the Brig, the Ana. It is such a wildly different pool of supports when you go from a map that is kind of heavily around the Brawl territory to one that is big sight lines, full poke.
Yeah, and I think that this is a good map pick for Turkey to try and maybe slow things down a little bit. That tempo that was coming out from Poland on Lijiang Tower, they were having a little bit of a tough time matching it in those later sub maps. So I think that you go to this longer range map, you're going to put more pressure onto Flatix and Lethal for sure to try and find those opening picks. But you aren't necessarily going to be as concerned about these kind of specific rush compositions. And seeing Texal come in for Team Poland, I am anticipating that it is going to be that more double flex support. But there are a couple interesting bans coming out. It is going to be the Junkrat ban to start out, expecting that that is more or less just a protect ban for the DPS category, but then the Kiriko ban coming out in response for Poland. So that is going to be an interesting one, because of course, a mainstay for the flex support.
Yeah, and I understand it. Again, going to a map like this, I think you want to protect that DPS, because I think realistically, if you're Poland, you probably would have looked into maybe getting rid of the M-Ray, maybe getting rid of the Widowmaker, maybe even that Cassidy, but I think you did a little too good of a job on it if you're ICAV to realistically ban it out. But I like the route of going for protection, saving those big bans for a different occasion. But Rain, we're getting ready to head into our second map of the afternoon as we're heading over to Havana, and it looks like it is going to be Turkey starting out on the attack.
Okay, love to see it. Now, that Kiriko ban maybe going to be a little bit of a thorn in the side here for Turkey, as Dirt is subbed in. Look, you've made a name for yourself off of the Roadhog, so people are probably going to look to target some things out against you, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the Ana that comes in. We could see Mac move back over on to that Junker Queen if they do still want to play that kind of rush style, but no. On the defense first here, Poland is going to be running this Ana ERA composition. I gotta say, I'm really interested about how many kind of different comps have made an appearance so far, and we're only on map number 2. Some heroes that we just haven't really been getting to see a whole lot of.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating. I love seeing the Sigma gameplay. It's been a bit of a shame that we haven't seen Sigma, and I think that is very heavily in part because of Domina in a lot of ways. But I think Dirt over on the Sigma should be able to show what you got, and in case, yeah, as Dirt says, Roadhog. Worst comes to worst, the Roadhog is available, but Texel being on that Ana, I feel like is almost anticipating it in a sense.
Yeah, that's true, and that's what I think as well. As you see Dirt come in, and you gotta be expecting that this could at least make an appearance. At least if he doesn't start on it, yeah, there's always going to be that swap in the back pocket. I do like the Sigma into the Domina on some maps. I think that because of the wide open sightlines of this one, it's going to be a little bit hard to use that shield to block off those heals from the Domina.
Yeah, we'll see right now. ICAP is over on that Widowmaker we briefly mentioned before, so we'll see what kind of value it finds. Remember, found a lot before, but it's Lethal who's going to get the first blow here to get this started. And with China down, you lose a lot of that ability you have to really go after that backline and force the back. So this is going to open up the sidelines, get you a lot more progression.
I like Flatix on the Tracer here, being able to kind of control some of these angles. You, of course, have to look out for ICAV. You need to be able to clear that space for the Widow, but I do think that not having anybody that's really going to be able to contest Flatix on this Tracer for the side of Poland is going to create a little bit of an issue for some of these supports of Poland.
It's definitely going to. China's trying to kind of force away this high ground, but currently it's kind of in a 2v1. Can't really aggressive quite yet. As you see the aggression coming through, Texel is struggling in the backline, is lucky to still be standing, quite frankly. You have Flatix, who is in there over on the Tracer, is able to kind of harass the backline in a really consistent basis. But as things right now are going, Rain, Farouk gonna be the first one to be taken out here. I was gonna say it's been a while since somebody dropped, but losing out on a support at this stage is not good for Dirt, as you have to keep backing up here and try to re-sustain here.
Yeah, that is going to be the disengage. Ooh. Okay, nice little trade there. Flatix is going to end up getting punished for that, but the attacker spawned quite close. Dirt is staying in this fight, though, and the Widow's even going to be committed to make sure he can stay on that card.
Yeah, I like it. You invest it, Dirt's gonna be able to stay alive, start taking some aggression back here. You have to worry about everything being thrown at you here, though, but Texel's gone. You're gonna try to go with this Captain Sun. You get lifted up in the air in a couple of low bodies. Gonna be able to stay alive momentarily, but a nice stick comes through there for Flatix to give them a little bit more space to work with, and as long as Dirt stays up here, this should be a pretty reasonable take coming online as AgCav. Last one really standing as Farouk's like, nah, I'm not peeking that one, buddy, as they're gonna be able to cap that away with just under 2 minutes.
I love the confidence from Turkey here to commit to that amplification matrix in to keep Dirt alive on the point, and the gamble absolutely paid off. Fantastic stuff from this attacking team to cap up first point here. And, you know, a little expensive. You did have to commit that Gravitic Flux, but you got that Captive Sun out. Now, though, you got to be worried about a Nano Blade.
Yeah, and that is going to be rough. Has already gotten rid of one. He's just chasing down Farouk, and Farouk just, there's nowhere to hide. And Ermac, the door closes on Ermac at the worst possible time. Lethal is in a rough situation. He's going to try to get out of there alive. We'll be able to do so, but the Nano Blade certainly does its job, but they invest 2 ultimates to win that fight, as Flatix is going to go and match the Genji now.
Ooh, okay, I like it for the second point. There definitely is a little bit more high ground to kind of contest here, and maybe a little bit trickier for that Tracer. So having Flatix on this Genji is going to allow for that kind of quick eliminations if you can combo with Lethal.
Yeah, definitely so, but now you still have a Panopticon to have to worry about, but Meg is dead. Dead very quickly, as a matter of fact. Now Lethal's gonna start moving on forward. Losing Dirt definitely hurts your situation, but you've got enough picks to where you can keep progression going. Texel is just gonna have to eat the death here in a second, but bright side is you don't use any ultimates. You will be able to regroup with plenty of time for another fight.
Yeah, that's exactly it. This Panopticon ready to go here from Max. It's going to be maybe a little bit tricky to kind of find the value with it. Of course, this kind of poke composition that's coming out from Turkey, they're going to be playing on a lot of angles here, so you're probably going to want to just use it and hard commit onto that kind of one target here. If you could take out Dirt, that would be an excellent opportunity, but you still got to be nervous about these DPS that are set up on the angles. Yeah,
we see Flat and China kind of going out in the 1v1, both having to play a little carefully. Weird trade coming through here with ICAV going down. You lose out on sustainability if you are Dirt, but right now, your job really is just trying to hang around, stay alive, open the door for Flat and Lethal to kind of find their inherent value. And Mac trying to do the exact same thing with that Panopticon, by the way, still available. Hasn't used it yet because you said it earlier, there's not really a great opportunity to use it. I imagine once we get to that point, it's just going to get solo used on Dirt.
Yeah, I'm thinking the exact same thing. This Sigma's probably going to be the target of this ultimate now. Eggs has the Captive Sun. Gonna use that in response to this amplification matrix.
They solo Lethal, who is taking a nap after getting slept. Now Dirt has no more care sitting by. He's eventually going to get finished off, and now 2 minutes left on the clock. Panopticon's still ready to go, and that Nano Blade is about to be available once again.
Yeah, and where there's no Lucio in the mix here, it's a little bit tricky to kind of have a counter out to the Nano Blade, but Dirt does have this Gravitic Flux. You could potentially try and hit China with it. China did rip apart your team with the last Nano Blades. You're probably going to want to have some kind of a response. Flatix is building up to a blade of his own. Won't have a Nano to work with, but Farouk can try and build up this Tidal Blast, and that will at least be something to try and capitalize on.
Yep, and here comes that Nano Blade, and it's getting used on the other targets as they're able to cut through. Ermac right here, rough situation to hang around with here if you are Lethal, as they'll be done and dusted. Full wipe coming through, and it does exactly what you need to. And Rain, that buries even more time down. Now just a minute remaining here for Turkey.
Yeah, it's not a whole lot for Turkey to work with. The good news is those Nano Blades, of course, it's two ults kind of committed into a fight. So it is a big trade here. You do have nearly this Tidal Blast and Blade ready to go if your Turkey. You can see they're kind of playing slow here. They're trying to build it up for Farouk, but still going to be this Deadeye from ICAP. That's going to be able to create so much of a zoning potential that Flatix might not actually be able to clear as much space as he's looking for with this Blade.
Yeah, I think so as well. And now down early, this is the opening you needed here if you are Team Turkey. And now Dirt sees a couple of low bodies. Eventually, he's going to find a perfect shot over onto China to give them a little bit more space. Unfortunately, you lose a couple of bodies late, so while you're going to win the fight, you should see Team Poland be able to regroup here for another engagement.
I'm thinking the same thing. And yeah, looks like Max is also going for the engagement. Gonna take the side angle here. And now, because we're getting into overtime, everybody from Turkey is gonna have to play around this card. It's gonna make it so much easier to get value from this Panopticon.
Yeah, and now Dirt's on a rough spot, and the solo Panopticon comes out. It doesn't connect, but Dirt's also gonna lose out here now. It's just the Blade coming through here from Flat, who's able to get rid of one, trying to cut through more, gets plenty of health, and with some overtime care, they'll be able to take this one away. Texel going down last, and it took everything you had, but you get through second, and you get another opportunity to keep pushing this card.
Really making us sweat here. It was looking a little rough there. Oh, okay, Widowmaker swap. We see you, ICAP, and I think that is a fantastic swap to come here for the third point of Havana.
Oh, that is phenomenal. That immediately sets the pace here that we kind of saw back over on second. You see the separation over on the Dirt, eventually taken care of. ICAB shoots into the deflecting Genji, almost gets taken out, but the Widowmaker alone existing, Rain, is a threat in its own right.
Yes, so true. Lethal recognizing that is going to swap to the Widowmaker for himself here. So that at least is going to take some pressure off of Turkey.
Plenty of pressure being taken away, as you said. And now losing out on, you know, your Alari. It's just Texel. So throw the Nano over on the China, who is nowhere near the Blade, but is still finding incredible amounts of value. Gets rid of one. Farouk is too separated. He is staying alive momentarily. Max eventually going to take care of business. Now with 20 seconds left, you have no ultimates for this fight.
Nothing to work with, not even close if you're Turkey, and this captive Sun from Eggs ready to go here. And again, it's going to be this kind of overtime scenario where you're going to be positioned a little bit more vulnerably if you're Turkey.
Yeah, you still are going to have a touch no matter what, and your spawns are so incredibly close to where you might have like an infinite amount of spawns. I'm not saying you have to let this thing, you know, go in a different way as Dirt gets deleted. Oh my god. They are taken care of, and now bodies just have to fling their way on one after another. Flat maybe gets one more touch, but I think just gets, yeah, forced so far away, they can't retouch. And Rain, when it comes to Havana third point, we're used to teams getting to that final corner. That is a very early stop for third point.
That's true, because like you mentioned, that attacker's spawn is very, very close. Usually we see a little bit more distance pushed here, but Poland showing up on that aggression, even if they're not on a rush composition. Really impressive kind of response when the headshot comes through onto Eggs. You lose your Iyari, and immediately you go hard, go aggressive, you look to make the trade, and you end up just like totally winning out the fight off of the back of that Nano onto China. Again, no Blade even needed here. So honestly, I really like the fast decision making that is coming in for Poland, and in most of these fights, it seems to be kind of really working out for them. They're making the right choices and catching kind of Turkey off guard when they think that they have the advantage. So we'll have to see if they're going to be able to keep that aggression up on the attack here. But Turkey on the defense, looking to start with Lethal on this Widowmaker.
Yeah, we'll see what we find here. I think ICAV and Lethal were finding a lot. Again, we saw ICAV swapped over, immediately like shot Farouk in the head. Lethal swapped over, immediately shot Iggs in the head. It's both of them inherently so good at the sit scan position. There's a reason why they're on this team. There's a reason why this is not their first appearance on their respective World Cup teams. They are here for a very good reason, as we saw.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that Havana really gives your DPS just that extra opportunity to shine here. So see what they're going to get done. Farouk is going to start on that Wu Yang. Otherwise, it is a mirror matchup between Poland and Turkey here. So it is going to come down to kind of trying to force out some of these cooldowns and really opening space for your DPS to find a pick first.
Yeah, definitely want to be able to do so. Got to be careful not to peek your head, as Farouk almost found out for a moment they were whizzing directly by their head. But the way this poke game is, Rain, this really is about who finds that first pick. Because the moment ICAV or Lethal finds that headshot, you're going to see that team respectively just start running forward and taking all of the space immediately. But for now, China hanging on by a prayer, eventually gonna go down though. And now, as I said, this opens up the door to start moving through, because without China, again, no pressure for that back line.
Yeah, it's a really nice setup here from Turkey on this defense. Everybody is on their own respective angle. Ermac very, very safe in that back line. So we see those nades just come in from downtown. They're good to hit them. On the high ground, you have Farouk on this Wu Yang, who's going to be able to use that wave to kind of deny anybody that goes in for that touch.
Yep, and you're to see accretion over onto Dirt, who's going to try to stay alive. Will be able to momentarily, but is running out of care. Eventually will go down. Max able to stay alive, hit the accretion to help bring them down. And now this is the space that you're talking about. You might take a trade out, but to be fair, I'd much rather lose by Ana than my Sigma.
Yes, and ooh, okay, Mabo to Genji though. This is looking good for Turkey to try and turn things around. Dirt is going to get back very slowly, but as the trades come through, you might be able to stall out this part.
Yeah, and you're doing a little bit more than stall. You're kind of forcing your way back over into this one. You have an nano ready to go. Unfortunately, with the anti, it doesn't create an opening, and now you should just see the solo over to Ermac. But Ermac, again, is somehow stayed alive. You throw the nano over onto Dirt. You surrender the nano blade, and to be fair, this could be worth it to hang around long enough for the rest of the team to get back with that blade, with the sights, and now you're going to have the Grid Flux online too.
Oh my gosh, how did Ermac find eggs up on that high ground? I'm not sure, but taking the Yari off that angle so important. Technical just getting back into the fight here, and now with those sights online for Lethal, yeah, everybody from Poland forced to just back up. You gotta respect that Widowmaker 100% of the time. So it is going to be a Gravitic Flux and a Nano now ready for Poland to try and make their re-engagement in, but great cycling of ults here on the side of Turkey is they're gonna have that bleed, and you're already gonna find IGAV out.
Yeah, now Nano thrown on the China again before the Nano is going to be available, but it might be too little too late already. You've lost out on two bodies, and more are looking to fall over as Texel trying to do the best they can to stay alive, but they're going to fall. Max will fall in the process. Now a minute 20 on the board. Have some good ultimates sitting by, and this is becoming quite dangerous here for Team Poland.
Yeah, they're really kind of struggling to make it through these corners. I think that this mixture of the kind of the Ana and the Wu Yang backline playing on these splits, you're really never going to be able to follow up on both of them. You know, this isn't a 1-2 hit with a Genji. You have to really work to cross this map to try and find both of those supports. So you only have the Gravitic Flux online currently, but China is going to get the blade soon.
Yep. Max is going to be able to stay alive through that, and now Creature throw directly back into the face of Dirt, who has enough care to stay alive a little while longer, but not long enough. Ermac is out of the sideline momentarily, but Flat is still finishing some bodies off. Max doing everything they can to make a little bit of progression, but honestly, at this stage of the game, you kind of need to eat the death and take one more reset, and all you can really have is a China and ICAV to clutch this up.
Yeah, this is a lot of pressure on the DPS for Poland. Definitely have seen them perform under pressure, but up against this Nano Blade from the side of Turkey. And Flat has been doing such an incredible job on this Genji without the blade, so you have to anticipate that this is going to cause a lot of issues here. So it is going to be Max moving over onto the Diva, going to have to go for that kind of last second touch.
Yeah, but your last second touch, the big one, is gone, and now Flat's going to have the Nano Blade and is just finding body after body to cut through. It's just Max, who would love to retouch, unfortunately, is not going to be given that right. Shutdown on the spot. Team Turkey going to even the playing field, make it 1-1. Man, that is one heck of a bounce back compared to how the second half of Lijiang Tower went down.
Right? There was not a percentage on the board for the last 2 sub points of Lijiang, and then to full hold on Havana, that is incredible stuff here from Turkey. Really showing a fantastic map selection for the composition that they wanted to play, and I think that their setups were really, really good. The attack, you know, getting stalled out on 3rd point, we were a little bit like, ooh, okay, we usually see teams push this card a little bit further, but they had a plan. That plan was to full hold Poland, and what a fantastic job they did. So this is definitely shaping up to be a very exciting series.
Yeah, that's what I was really hoping for when I went to this, saying, I don't know who's going to realistically win this. I don't know if one team is definitively stronger than the other. But to be fair, Rain, that's what we want in a situation like this, where we go into World Cup. We want teams at their very best. We don't want to go in saying like, oh, we know this team's going to win. I don't think you can say this about that World Cup. I don't even know if you could say that about the previous World Cup realistically either. So it'll be fascinating to see, because right as we know, a lot of the info has been properly announced for the World Cup now. We know when the big top 16 qualifiers are going to happen. They're happening in Korea, which that means potentially one or maybe both of these teams for that matter maybe get to go to Korea to play against some of the other greatest nations across the world. So for everyone, it's clearly an exciting time, but this is in preparation for it, to see like, hey, what can we do? What doesn't work? What do we need to adjust in the meantime?
And I do think that this is a great kind of a way for Turkey to really adjust on these things, because gotta really prepare yourself to play into some of these teams that are going to be running those rush compositions. Yes, you look fantastic on that poke composition, but map pools, there's not that many poke maps compared to where you can run out on these rush compositions. As we know where we're going for map number 3, Poland are going to take us to Midtown. So again, you can potentially play some poke here. We do see it on 1st point defense every now and then, but it's another one of these maps where you can really just roll out on the rush comp. Poland can play as aggressively as they want, and they'll be able to get away with it. So Turkey are going to have to continue with some of that momentum that they built on Havana. I like the setups that they had. Try and reapply that now to Midtown, where you're going to be forced into a little bit of a different play style.
Yeah, that'll be fantastic to see. As we see that bans that went through, we see Poland going to ban out the Diva, and the FAR going to get banned out by Turkey, which again, from what we saw before, it makes sense. I mean, Cabby's best character kind of seemed like the Diva, and I think you're in a position where maybe on a Midtown, I don't want to deal with the Diva. To be fair, I don't think anybody wants to deal with the Diva anywhere. Let's be perfectly clear about that. But the FAR also makes sense. We look back at what I think it was China did back on Lijiang Tower. Again, another scenario you just don't want to deal with.
Yeah, it's true. That was the one sub map where you did end up coming out with the win first on Night Market. Didn't win on Garden, but yeah, dealing with the Farah can be a little bit too much. And again, this is still going to be a protect ban onto the DPS. So, well, I guess they banned 2nd, so maybe not so much a protect ban here. But seeing the Diva come out, Diva ban come out is interesting. I do think that having Dirt still in, yeah, okay, look, I wanted to see you could potentially have a Roadhog. Turkey's going to be on the attack, so this is not guaranteed, but I do think on Midtown, where the attacker spawn is a little bit closer, you can kind of go for these cheeky kind of pick compositions just to get them out the gate. You can see that Lethal is currently hovering on the Widowmaker as well. Maybe it won't cap you the whole point, but if you can at least get 1 tick on 2 tick, and then you can just try and chip away at that, it is an option. But on the defense here, we're going to get to see Max actually over on the Orisa here. So off of that Domina, over onto the Orisa, a little bit more kind of staying power, where the Domina does have to cede a lot more space. So interested to see how this is going to work, as they are once again over on this double flex support composition.
Yep, but here we go. Dirt Gaming is fully in effect. The Hog is here, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll see what I can find. Orisa, again, not the tank you really want to walk into, but the important part is no Ana being thrown out right there, as Max decides to waste no time. Farouk is dead early, but this isn't really going to stop Dirt's rotation ultimately. They're going to continue to stay up here. In the position they're at, Rain, they can't really be taken out in their position.
Ooh, okay, Hook almost connects there, but yeah, you're aware of how to play into a Roadhog if you're Poland. It's all about trying to keep your distance from him, but Dirt has somehow just slipped his way in. Unfortunately, Turkey is having a hard time breaking through that choke point.
Yep. Oh, Dirt's pushed in actually big time, and now is going to run out of health. Eventually burnt down, so unfortunately, it's just not going to be anything to find there. Realistically, the way this fight, the moment Dirt goes down, that should conclude the fight, and in this scenario, it 100% will.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Roadhog not very long-lived here on Midtown. Dirt E's going to swap over onto the Sigma, a little bit more conventional here, and going to be able to support the team a little bit more and trying to break through this first choke point. Flat is going to move over onto the Genji as well, so interested to see how they're going to make this work. Lethal is over on the Cassidy, so you do have some consistent damage from that Cassidy, but it's not going to be the same range that you're necessarily looking at for that Sojourn, so the follow-up on the Genji maybe going to be a little bit trickier.
It definitely will be a little bit more tricky, but you're going forward. Max rough scenario, but does have the Terror Surge ready, is likely to not have to pull it here as you get rid of Farouk early once again, as everyone else should be realistically cleared out here as, yeah, you see Ermac trying to survive. It's not going to happen, and at this point, maybe just take your reset, and yeah, that'll go through. But that's another team wipe coming through for Poland.
Now we saw Turkey trying to make the rotation around the side here in that alleyway. I believe it was Farouk and Flat trying to find some angle, but ICAV on this Emre, those nades just bounce around in tiny corridors like a Junkrat, so it was so much damage that came out right away, and now almost all of the ultimates ready to go here for Poland. This is going to be very tough for Turkey to try and break into, but just that Nano.
Oh. Yeah, Nano thrown out over onto Lethal to try to finish, but Lethal doesn't really have any care setting by, and that is going to be disastrous. That is 3 ults ultimate used there for Team Poland as compared to just the Nano, so this could come back to bite them here soon.
Yeah, that's right. There is going to be another swap here from Ermac. Use that Nano. Is going to move over on to the Kiriko now. So Kiriko, Wu Yang backline to work with. A little bit more standard here. You are building up to this Deadeye and the Tidal Blast. The Deadeye, it's going to be hard to get the value, though, because you're not going to be able to walk through a choke point with that.
No, you are not, and Lethal has to be careful as ICAV is finding plenty over here with the Override Protocol, gets rid of 2, and now Dirt and Ermac just have to run for it. But Ermac, there is no running, there is no hiding as Dirt's going to return single-handedly.
Dang, this is very, very tricky for Turkey. 60 seconds on the board. At least you got one more ult out of Poland. So now it's just going to be Texall with this amplification matrix. Lots of space for him to use it effectively on this defense. But you pretty much just saved up 4 ultimates here if you are Turkey. So you have one opportunity to go for a big hard fight.
Yeah, and you're seeing Flax go in, and he's able to get rid of 1. He's able to get a nice clear over the Texall. And now Blade going to be used here. Literally just a double down as they're going to be able to get rid of 2. Try to give them the hat trick right here as you're going to see China just run for it. Unfortunately, again, I would say there's no running, but China's actually getting pretty far out of there and pulling a couple of members.
Oh my gosh, yeah, okay, Turkey is going to turn around, head back towards the point here because Poland is staging like they might want to go for a recontest.
Oh, they don't make it!
Oh.
So close, yet so far, and now the bright side is everyone is alive for the moment, so you can play up aggressively, but China down, you may have lost your opportunity already to do so.
Yeah, look, this Gravitic Flux committed in as well. Turkey need to control all of this space. They need to take this high ground.
Yeah, and now ICAV is just kind of running for their own existence. Is going to be 1 health. Will be able to get out. But again, you get these late deaths coming through. And now you can set up on this high ground aggressively.
And you have the Deadeye to use on this high ground. Lethal is just hiding in a corner right now, aware of where Poland is going to be pushing in, and this is going to be a great way to kind of control this high ground. Actually, nice little cheeky angle kind of over the side here as you have to try and push up here if you're Poland, but you're walking into so much damage.
You are. Now, Texal's going to make, a little bit of space here with the Amplification Matrix, but still, with the Consumer Rush in your face, it's just not going to work out. Lethal Ermac finding a couple of their own. Now, the important thing is, while this fight is being lost, this point has been being contested by China the entire time. So while China's going to die on it, this gives enough time for everyone to regroup here as China, I think, maybe should have potentially gone down. But again, they're alive.
Somehow alive, is being chased down by Lethal, who has an idea of where the Tracer is lurking, but isn't 100% sure. So now this is actually quite a nice angle that China is going to have. However, it's no longer just Farouk on the point.
Yeah, and you're to see in the backline, I think just try to draw in China on that one as ICAV's going to lose with the Override Protocol. He's going to be cut down in the air, by the way, and now less than 4 meters remaining until this one could be dusted. Terra Surge to pull a couple of bodies in, is able to catch over onto Lethal, so things not done quite yet as Flax hanging around in the backline trying to take care of business on with a Texal who has all the care in the world, and at the end of the day, Dirt is going to try to go for heroics, but it gets speared out of it, and it is devastation here for Turkey.
Oh, yeah, you really would have wanted to have that for this next fight. It is going to be both those support ults ready to go for Poland, so it's going to be really hard to push into that with just that tidal blast on the side of Turkey. So you're probably going to see that tidal blast go over onto flat on this Genji. At least you'll be able to kind of have a fast engage, a hard hit here, but it's going to be that Kitsune rush that's just going to be so hard to fight into. Ermac is so far away from building up to one of their own.
Yeah. And you're getting a little bit of space here, going to use that amplification matrix a little early. And now you kind of have to leave this touch for one of your supports more than, or I should say one of your DPS more than likely. As Farouk, again, is really struggling to stay alive, is eventually going to let it loose. Over onto Flex, who's going to be on the aggression, does not have a blade ready, but will be able to get the overtime activated here, but with no ult sitting by. Kitsune Rush in your face. You need to find picks, and you need to find them now, but your own Kitsune Rush is online in time to make some space. Dirt going down is worst case scenario though, because everyone else from Poland is beginning to flood back in, pressure them as much as you would like. With Max still hanging in there, still being alive, this is going to be so difficult to take back to the point where Dirt has to go on the Doomfist just to try to get back to help out. Unfortunately, the numbers game is no longer in their favor. They'll be cleared out, and they're going to be stopped just shy of the second checkpoint.
Definitely looking better than what they did on the first point here. I like the rotations up to the high ground for Turkey very consistently, but I think that the spacing from the side of Poland just meant that you were having a really hard time kind of following up on those kills. Lethal, great to hit the shots on the Cassidy, but there is that fall-off damage. So when the Baptiste, when Texel and Eggs are just set up so far back on that second point, they just kind of relinquish that high ground and just play for to force the cart with this Orisa, who has dipped out of the lobby for now, but so hopefully Mac will come back into things here because yeah, I think that Poland have a pretty good opportunity to maybe pick up another map here.
Yeah, you know, that'd be nice to see us. Yeah, come back, please do come back. Oh, we'll see what happened there. There are occasional server issues. I've seen it more happen with Face League than anything else, but
Yeah.
you know, servers will be servers ultimately. But ultimately that ends up being a really fantastic hold there coming through because again, remember them trying to kind of push through that choke. They were getting shut down every single time Team Turkey was, and they finally pushed their way through. They get all momentum, and then the same situation, once they reach that final choke, they get shut down, and China does such an excellent job of stalling that point out, not once, but twice.
Yeah, and that's the tough thing for Turkey, where you aren't running a tracer of your own. It's basically just Farouk on the Wuyang to more or less fend for himself, which granted, he did survive through a lot of those engagements where China was stalling out that point, but having that tracer available to be the one to just go and be an annoyance, put some pressure on that cart meant that you were fighting for every kind of foot here if you're Turkey when it came to that payload, and that allowed the rest of Poland to get set up a little bit further back. They know that they have the pressure from multiple angles here, so even though the high ground was in control of Turkey, they had enough angles that they weren't as concerned about that high ground. So fantastic stuff from Poland to, yeah, shut that down once again. Gotta give credit to Turkey for being able to break through that first point because it was not looking like they were going to be able to get a cap there. So I'd like the swap over onto the Sigma. Love to see some Roadhog, of course, but unfortunately, sometimes the conventional heroes are just going to be the best pick.
Yeah, unfortunate situation. I love that they were willing to try a lot of different things to get through that. Eventually, it worked. The investment that we've kind of seen thrown into Flatix has been, I think, the biggest thing today. We have seen pretty much every support ultimate be used to kind of enable that. And to be fair, to a lot of degrees, it has been working. You throw everything into one character, and you can turn. You can do what you want to do. But it's different when you have a giant tank in front of your face compared to the small Genji with a nano on them. I think it's a little more difficult to deal with, and it's been a good ace in the hole for Turkey thus far. But that's something you get every, like, maybe 2 minutes. So it's not sustainable for the long term. So it's really about a lot of these aggressive fights that you have without ultimates kind of being activated that you need to start winning and making those a little more 50-50.
Yeah, I agree. It is important to be able to get value from the ultimates for sure. But yeah, like you said, if you're not winning out in those dry fights, you're not going to be able to build up those ultimates as fast. You're going to have kind of these situations where we're seeing Poland kind of really end up splitting Turkey, where it really was China most of the time on that tracer, kind of drawing members away from Turkey. And it's so easy to be like, I'm going to chase that tracer down. We're going to get the late stagger kill onto her. But The thing about Tracer is, even if you get that late stagger kill, she's gonna get back into the fight really quickly. So it's kind of a win every time Poland has somebody from Turkey kind of trying to chase down one of those late kills onto China, and really worked out in their favor. But all right, we're back into things. Max has made his return here on the defense. Turkey are going to have Ermac actually over on the Ana to start here. So you were mentioning, you know, a lot of those support ults being thrown into Flatix. Well, now he's not just going to have the Tidal Blast to work with, but he's going to have a potential Nano as well.
Yep, and that is going to be fantastic to work with. Again, we'll see how quickly it can go through, but Ermac is mainly going to be throwing a lot of these heals over into Dirt, who Dirt realistically is going to take like so much already early on. Got down to half health. This Farouk is down immediately. That is, Rain, that is worst case scenario, because now the door is wide open for them to move forward. You can just walk right past Dirt. You get the spear over onto Flax, who's going to be able to stay alive momentarily, and he's just protected long enough to just die anyway. In this first point, this one could already be done and dusted, as Dirt's going to try to just get out alive and regroup.
Oh, China on this Hanzo, so scary. Those logs connecting on a Farouk, and yeah, not having that Wuyong into this fight. So much pressure on Ermac to try and keep everybody up, and you'd really love to be able to use those nades more aggressively, but if you're the only healer alive, you gotta go for the healing.
Yeah, this one, oh, and a shot over onto Ermac is gonna close that one out, as you still have Flax hanging around. Unfortunately, it's just not going to matter. They'll be taken out. And the unfortunate part is that a lot of people getting the back spawn, so you can't play this corner yet.
Yeah, right? Yeah, you might not even be able to control this high ground. Right now, Dirt and Farouk are kind of set up there, but you can see the Poland are looking to make their way onto this high ground. They'd love to get ICAV kind of set up there on that M-Ray, although, yeah, I guess he is a little bit on the point right now, but just being in control of this high ground is so important. Both teams showing a lot of respect to each other, though, recognizing that they don't want to just walk in willy-nilly, because there's a lot of damage to be had.
Lots of damage to be had, and no one wants to peek for China, by the way, as Dragon's gonna be ready, and oh, you're gonna see the cutoff over onto Dirt, who's gonna have to just step over into the open area. Luckily, not a lot of opposition waiting for them, so you definitely still have something to work with, but again, you lose that over on Flax early. That card is still making progression, by the way, and now we're already in Final Fight territory, and Dirt is so far separated. Don't be delivered, you take the trade out, but you gotta get this card moving and, you know, just kind of just take advantage of what you've given yourself here.
Ooh, okay, Nano has to be given over onto Lethal here. At least he's going to be able to put some pressure onto that card, like you mentioned. Now it's just Max alive. And
wow.
All right, the Nano paying off for Turkey here. It seemed like a little bit of a panic, but at least you're going to hold on to that overclock fight. Coming into this next fight, I mean, it was just the Dragons that were committed from China, and there's so much progress that has been made on that payload here. 4 minutes for Poland to try and push that another halfway through second phase here. They are going to have to, again, kind of fight their way towards this high ground, but you got the ults to make that easier.
Yeah, you do. ICAB is going to try to find something with the override protocol. Dirt is just going to run away at this point. You see the separation, trying to get the shot over onto Ermac. Doesn't work out. As you see the DPS playing a little more separated with each other. And here comes, trying to pull a couple bodies in as Texel gets deleted immediately. But you take that trade out right after the fact with the Consider Rush being thrown into their faces right now. So it's becoming desperate. Lethal, again, might have to be a hero for the squad, but gets taken out on the spot by ICAV. And now it could be a desperation rush to get over to the point. Flatix taken out early. Dirt being given everything left in the world, but with the Dragon over on the point, that should settle things right here. And now just a little bit more support care to hang in there. Delay the inevitable. Is this going to be a big push? Team Poland getting back on the upper hand, are up 2-1 now after, I think it's fair to say, a pretty dominant attack.
Yes, I definitely have to agree with you. And it's also maybe a little bit, so I don't want to say surprising, but unexpected to move from Havana, where they were playing these poke compositions, where Turkey was very much coming out on top, to move over onto Midtown, still not play that Lucio, still play this more kind of poke pick potential, and then put up that kind of a showing. Like, wow, fantastic stuff for Poland to kind of bounce back from this, because that was definitely a map that could have gone Turkey's way.
Yeah, definitely could have. Thank you, Esports Loot Box, for being gained. That's fascinating.
Wow.
But no, this is definitely fascinating. And I love how back and forth this really is, but teams are still showing their prowess in what they can do, because give right to Team Poland, the 2 maps that they've won so far, they've had very dominant sprees during that. You look back over, again, back on Havana, where it felt like it was quite back and forth. Turkey really had to kind of fight their way and grind their way through the first 2 points, but Poland just end up getting hard shut down on that corner. Turkey try to find that same success, obviously. Unfortunately, it doesn't come to fruition. And now the question is where you decide to go, because I don't know exactly if there is a map pool, what rotation they're going, but if we're going off of map types that haven't been used yet, Rain, we saw a flashpoint and push out there, which traditionally, Atlanta Farah, do tend to go down the route of having a lot of tight-knit brawl aspects to them.
Yeah, and I think that that's where Poland is really going to kind of be able to shine here. They've looked fantastic when they were running it on Lijiang Tower. Turkey definitely did have some shining moments on that rush composition as well, especially, of course, Night Market, making some nice rotations. But Poland, I think, very, very much warmed up here. And yeah, we do have the map that we're going to be going to. It will be a Flashpoint map. So we're going to head over to Atlas, probably the least played Flashpoint map here. And this is where I was kind of mentioning where if you're a team that has a little bit more experience on maybe some of these lesser preferred maps, it can really give you kind of an upper hand here as Team Turkey are going to, opt to send us over to this Atlas for map number 4.
Yeah, and I like it. One thing me and Dexatron talked about a lot back in some of the earlier seasons of Face It was there was always like a certain number of maps that just never got picked. But every once in a while, we would see like a Blizzard Road like once every 3 weeks, and guess what? The team that picked Blizzard Road, more often than not, they kind of dominated the map because they're used to playing it and saying, hey, let's go to a map that we know teams don't practice as much. They have to kind of throw together a style sometimes. It's different when it's like, we lost on Lijiang Tower. Let's go to King's Row to fight back. Doesn't always work that way.
Yeah, it's a good point. So we are going to have a couple of roster swaps coming in as well. So it is going to be Cabby back in for Team Turkey, and then it's going to be Flipper coming in for Egg. So that Lucio player for Poland making a reappearance here, which I think makes a lot of sense for any kind of a Flashpoint map. So we'll see what they end up back on, but we'll have to take the bans into account as well. We do have one ban coming out here. It is going to be the Baptiste ban. I believe that's from the side of Turkey. Yes. So that is going to act as kind of a support protect ban as well, although I do think that the Baptiste was pretty scary from the side of Poland.
Oh, it was definitely scary to have to do it. Let's be real on that one. So I like both the bans here. I think they're pretty worthwhile. The BAP stuff to deal with, the Soj can definitely be as well. This means you might see a situation with a Soj out. Lethal might fall back into going down the M-Ray that we saw some glimpses of a lot more back on Lijiang Tower. I think Atlas could definitely suit it, especially since outside of that very first point, I think the other 4 are pretty wide open to where I think you could get a lot of value from a hit scan like M-Ray.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. There's so many corners to kind of work around, and then having that ability to kind of get a little bit of vertical movement will also really help you, because
there's a whole lot of verticality in this first point, but like you mentioned, it's a little bit more enclosed, the station sub point of Atlas. So I think that as we move on through the other points, I definitely get a lot more value from that M-Ray. Someone that we haven't really seen a whole lot of that has been kind of finding her way, I think, out of the meta is that Vendetta. Do think that she can play very nicely on Atlas as well, where it is all about kind of these corners. She plays similarly to how that Reaper used to play, where you want to just kind of hide in a corner and then pop out and do a whole ton of damage. You can do that, but yeah, been kind of seeing her maybe make her way out as Tracer has kind of found her way back into things, and then of course M-Ray getting a lot more playtime as well. That long range damage can be very, very difficult for a Vendetta to deal with here, but we are into the map now. Looking like Poland going to be going out on this dominant composition as well. It is the Lucio Juno right now. I'm expecting just for that kind of extra speed boost, and then over onto that Kiriko. China is going to be over on this May as well. So May Cassidy against this M-Ray Tracer. So there's a lot more mobility on the side of Turkey, at least to start with.
Yeah, and a lot of damage in that respect as well. A lot of big burst potential, especially for someone like Lethal over on that M-Ray. But already is being forced as they're just kind of forcing the rotation. As you can kind of see in the background, Flax trying to kind of keep some pressure, turn some bodies their way, but no one willing to really turn quite yet as ICAP eventually kind of just gets outnumbered on the spot. As long as Cabby can stay in mech, this should be a realistic take coming out here, but does get demeched actually. It's kind of hard for everyone else to touch, and now with Max still being in this is not going to be a very realistic take, as everyone else should probably just regroup, wait for Cabby.
Yeah, Flatix is kind of lurking around here, but there's not going to be a whole lot of contest up on this high ground from Mascot. Stop it up, but ICAV has found his way back in. A little bit of revenge for getting taken out early here, and Cabby's going to have a hard time staying in this mech between the Domina and the Mei here, so we might see the swap out, or we could just see a little bit of an adjustment in the play style where you need to be keeping some distance from this front line.
Yeah, and by the way, Lethal already has Override Protocol. I feel like that might be worth bringing up. That's massive, especially... You have to make a little bit of space, though, because ICAV is going to be looking for the moment Lethal goes into the air right here. And you see, already trying to create some kind of pressure. ICAV going to be hit directly with one, trying to stay around, but they're literally having to play a little bit of hopscotch over here in the corner to stay alive, and that they will be able to do. And Sound Barrier is used so quickly in response here. No bomb to be able to remech with. Lethal's doing their best to keep him in it, and Flipper is, again, playing a little patty cake with Cabby. Neither ends up going down quite yet, but eventually they'll be able to do so. But honestly, it might be too little too late. Flipper's going to come through. Max doesn't really have any care left sitting by, should realistically get burnt down eventually, as they'll take it over at 98%. And realistically, because they didn't build up a whole lot, they're still going to have that Kitsune Rush to Mac Texel.
Right? Yeah, that is going to be fantastic ult to use across this point here, especially where we've seen them get so aggressive with these Kitsune Rushes. Now, Ermac does have the Kitsune Rush as well, and we've seen them more or less go for kind of a little bit of a later Kitsune Rush rather than trying to open things up here. And where there's such a heavy ult advantage on the side of Poland, I do think that Turkey are going to have to try and play second here.
You have to right now, and immediately Texel gone. Once you pull things out, and now you're just running down some bodies. Bomb has to be used to sustain. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen here, as China's going to be able to retain that mech. Ermac doing the best to keep everyone in this one. Unfortunately, it's just as they take the trade out. You have Farouk, who's still hanging around, by the way. Is they're going to hold on to this, and now Texel is the only realistic touch at this moment.
Oh my gosh, I mean, the backline from Turkey just doing numbers in the kill feed here. Kabi is back into things. There's so many ults for the side of Poland to work with. Are they going to get the touch? Ooh. Yes, they do get overtime just in time.
Yeah, and now you have the ults for it. You're going to get the last minute touch. Once again, Kabi has to back off, and you can play a little bit of that reasonable poke. You get rid of ICAV. You trade Ermac for it, but now the freeze is being thrown in. I don't think it has any realistic targets now. As Farouk gets frozen out, I don't think it's going to matter, though, as they're going to start running down some bodies. They get cleared out. It's a really back and forth first play, but ultimately goes the way of Turkey, as there is so much used there by Poland to try to win that one.
Yeah, they really thought that, you know, it's overtime here. Turkey have to play on the point. We'll just commit the Blizzard in, but you don't get any of those movement cooldowns out. And everybody on the side of Turkey very, very mobile here. So nobody ends up getting caught in that Blizzard. Then the beat coming in from Farouk is so good. Connects on a 4 and follow up on the aggression. It's a great start here for Turkey.
Yep, and now Override Protocol is going to force everybody away. And you see everyone collectively decide, nah, we don't want this business. We're getting out of here immediately. I can't, maybe too much, but Lethal, I think, pushes up a little bit too far. And now Wall's going to cause separation. Ermac is in such a rough scenario. Gets taken care of, but Flag gets two with the pulse bomb staying in this one. But it's realistically just them and Farouk that are still hanging around in there. You see the surrounding over there, over onto Max and China, who are both low. Somehow, some way, they've remained in this one. 3 down already. 4 for Flag to turn this one around. It is almost single-handedly going to give them the point.
Wow, it's just incredible stuff from the Tracer. Excellent angle there from Flatix, who goes in for the pinch. Lethal pushes in, gets a little bit too aggressive, but it pulls everybody from Poland into that small room. Flatix wraps around, gets the pulse bomb to just delete the backline from Poland. It's a fantastic play. They will get a little bit of a later kind of cap on this point, but the percentage is going to build up fairly quickly. But this Deadeye from ICAV, yeah, taking the far way around.
Yeah, it's going to, again, buy them a little bit of space, a little bit of time. Someone's going to have to force their way on the point. More than likely, Cabby, who is going to indeed touch last second, has a bomb available right around the corner to be able to remech and realistically should survive it, but Flatix already down early. You lose a little bit of that clutch potential to stay in things. Max has to run as well, as close to getting D-Mech, is going to stay alive momentarily, but you see, Cabby gets off the point just to try to find the remech, and unfortunately, is going to be unsuccessful.
Yeah, you have to back up now if you're Turkey. You need to stabilize, regroup here, unless you find a very quick pick out. But I bet 2 support ults ready to go here for Poland. It's going to be hard for Turkey to try and find that initial opening pick off of the back of just chaos.
Yep, Sound Barrier going to be used aggressively to try to keep everybody back here from Team Turkey. But for the time being, it's Kathy who ends up going down first and foremost. So this fight's just like that, Rain. You lose your D.Va that early, you can't really take an aggressive fight anymore.
No, there is no committing an ult to come back into that as Max over on this D.Va as well. So creating a little bit more space here for the side of Poland. Managed to hold on to this Kitsune Rush from Texal. Last time we did see Texal go for that early Kitsune Rush on station, but Ermac was able to kind of hit back with that later one, and it was Turkey that ended up getting the better hand of that. So now, if you're Turkey, you could go for kind of an aggressive play. You have more ults to work with.
Yep, double Kitsune Rush here. The sound barrier not available for Flipper. But Farouk has theirs ready to go, and it's going to be thrown out just like that. Overtime, he's going to start taking over, but it's probably not going to last all that much longer as they're going to clear out ICAV. Last one on the point, and now this next fight will end up deciding it. And to be fair, with what you have left, it's literally going to come down to the DPS.
Yeah, the pressure is on Lethal right now to try and keep Turkey in this, I believe this is the resort sub point here, but we've already seen China get some great pulse bombs here, and the Deadeye can be used to kind of zone, find your way in, and that looks like exactly what they want to do.
Yep, and now you're just causing separation, trying to put everybody in a really weird area. Cabby is going to take a ton of damage and gets demeched as well. Lethal's going to try to find some kind of value, gets rid of Texel, staying in this, but ICAV has found another body. Ermac down their face, trying to find a couple of these kunai. But it might be coming down to Flatix once more to try to clutch this one up. But with the D.Va with a bomb in your face, Flipper, who's on the way to another sound barrier, it's just not going to be enough. We'll tie this one up. Poland getting their advantage back, and now they're going to have an early sound barrier for this next fight.
Yeah, sound barrier is going to be massive here, especially because you can just go for an aggressive barrier if you want. You know, that override protocol already came out. You don't have to worry about the better beat coming through from Turkey. So you definitely have an opportunity to get aggressive, go fast here, which Poland has shown us they really do like to do. As he's going to be a pause coming through that is at the request of Poland here, but oh, unfortunately, Max has been booted from the game once again. Servers do be servers.
Yeah, unfortunate. Right side was the bomb was used at a pretty recent time, so it won't matter a ton. Plus everyone's regrouping anyhow, so you should be able to still get back for another fight. But again, you still have a sound barrier, a pulse bomb going into this fight. You have the realistic means to win this one, where if things get a little too tight, you can use it and give yourself that advantage in the fight. You just have to realize it's like, hey, in like another fight or two, Farouk's now gonna have the sound barrier, and we're not gonna have anything for it.
Yeah, that's the tough thing about kind of going for these better beats is that, or these like kind of aggressive beats, is that you will kind of desync from that other Lucio, which can be very, very important in recognizing, yeah, which fight you're really going to have the advantage in. So far, I think Poland have been doing a pretty good job kind of cycling through their own ultimates. And we kind of mentioned it already, Turkey does a great job of finding the value in their ultimates. When they come out with them, they're usually finding something. Flatix, I mean, getting massive value just with the pulse bombs alone, Ermac with those Kitsune rushes as well. But I think what Turkey is really kind of having a hard time with right now is that Gabby is just out of that mech so often, really pushing in quite aggressively. I think maybe before Flatix is necessarily ready to kind of go in for those engagements. So all of the attention from Poland is being put directly onto Cabby. So you get demeched at the early fight, and then there's just so much pressure on to your DPS to try and clean up the fight, try and find out some trades. And sometimes it is working for Turkey, but sometimes it just really is not.
Sometimes definitely not. But hey, we're ready to go back into this one. Point's going to open up for our third one rocking here. And again, China still has a pulse bomb sitting by. Having that sound barrier for Flipper, again, it's so important to where if things get too rough, you have that section option to say, hey, we want to win this fight no matter what. We're going to take this one away. And Rain, you would obviously love to not have to use a sound barrier, find the early pick on someone like Flatix or Lethal, and just give yourself the natural upper hand, but we know Overwatch doesn't work that way. It never goes the way you want it to go 10 times out of 10 as the pulse bomb will miss from Flatix says they're actually going to take this point without any casualties from either side.
Ooh, okay, Poland starting to get some percentage here. Pulse bomb does connect onto Cabby, and Susu's just a little bit too late, so yeah, you gotta force the bomb. You gotta get another mech going.
Yep, able to do so, but still heavy pressure over on the point. Sound barrier still available. Eventually won't be let loose, keep ICAB alive, who is so close to going down. Cabby is being given every hint of damage. Will demac, but not fast enough for ICAB to fall over. You're in the 4v4. You still have a D.Va running down in your face. And unfortunately, with that D.Va there, it's going to be hard to capitalize on anything.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be a disengage from Turkiye. They're all kind of lurking around here, trying to maybe try and find out a trade, maybe get a DMAC, but you really cannot afford to lose anyone. And unfortunately for Turkey, that's exactly what's gonna happen, but they want to trade out still.
Yeah, and they trade out an ultimate here, so I don't hate it, but this point has been going by so incredibly quick to where this one's going to be dusted really fast, considering Rush is thrown out as well. Texel's going to have theirs, and Max might be taken out of mech. But that doesn't mean this fight's over. They're still pushing bodies down one after another. ICAP hanging in there somehow, some way, as a sound barrier has to be committed just to take this one, right? And Cabby is able to get rid of two. Needs to retain this mech, unfortunately won't, so while you are realistically going to lose this fight, Cabby is going to take so long to get this mech back.
Yeah, Pulse Bomb, okay, not going to connect this time, but Max is still almost full HP here on this D.Va. Finally, it is going to be the D-Mech coming through, but that was a very, very messy fight from the side of Turkey. They really had options to kind of back up, go for a soft reset, but just wanted to keep going for the re-engagement. Oh no, losing Cabby here, and the beat is ready for Flipper, so I mean, if you're Poland right now, this is where you can really just try and make a hard push back onto this point. You have so much to work with, and it's going to take Cabby a minute to get back.
Yeah, you realistically almost have to let this point loose for a moment. Here's Pulse Bomb thrown out. Cleanse is there. Perfectly timed from Texel, but China does go down early, so while the flick comes through, you still have a really big opening here. Touches are going to be available from Flatix and Cabby for the moment being. But you see how willing Flipper is to put themselves in the middle of this fight. Force bodies back. Make it as uncomfortable as humanly possible as Max lets go of the bomb. Catches onto Farouk of all people. And now it might be desperation time as Ermac trying to hang in there. Able to find a pick of their own on their Kiriko counterpart. But it really is these supports like clutching up for both of these sides. Trying to hang around. Trying to stay alive. And it looks like that's going to pay off here for Turkey as Flatix is still in there. And we'll be able to clear everybody else as they'll take the point back, but the job ain't done yet.
Look, these fights are so stressful for Turkey. They're having to kind of use ult in like a panic kind of a fashion here, which is really not great. Oh no, another early pick here from Poland. At least Flatix is going to be able to get back into the fight fairly quickly here, but you can see already Poland making their way towards this point. They have the Deadeye to try and zone Turkey off.
Yep, and yeah, it's going to zone, put everybody in a weird position. You want to force somebody out, and you almost force out Lethal, who's still alive, is going to have that override protocol ready to go as Pulse Bomb thrown away. Lethal is being pressured left and right, and eventually protocol going to go their way. You can only do so much. You have to try to run down their face, but now ICAP is so far separated. Texel thrown right into their face. And Rain, 3 minutes ago, we were talking about how this felt like it was all going the way of Poland, but Turkey pulls it back for the 99-0, and they're going to bring themselves over to map point.
Look, I mean, diamonds are made under pressure here. Turkey somehow in these fights where they really shouldn't be coming out on top are managing to do so here. So that, I think, speaks a lot to the clutch potential of these individual players from Turkey. Maybe those initial fights are not really going their way, but like you mentioned, they just managed to stay alive somehow through these really long, scrappy fights, which a lot of times does not pay off on Flashpoint maps, especially if you're not in control of the point here, but they have been remaining in control, at least keeping a member on the point, and they're going to be rewarded for this next point where they're going to have this early setup as it's going to be Poland on the attack.
Yeah, but now you have Sound Barrier available, but Flipper's not going to be able to throw it out there, so now Texel and Max doing everything they can to kind of hang around, stay alive. It's getting more and more difficult, though. You're going to have the remake available momentarily, but at this point in the 4v3, I don't think you realistically use it, and with that, they're going to end up surrendering this point over. ICAV and China going to hang in there for an extra moment, but it will go the way of Turkey as, yeah, China is going to be able to back out and stay alive.
Yeah, and that's so important here for Poland. They did use the Kitsune Rush, but lots of other kind of ways to break into this point. The beat from Flipper. Maybe you want to try and hold on to it this time because Farouk, he's going to be able to build up to that beat fairly quickly here, but I think that getting ICAV this override protocol online is going to be a fantastic way to try and break through these chokes.
Yep, Sound Barrier ready to go. Is going to get them rocking and rolling. China did not get caught with it, but still has the ability to push in here. Farouk is right around the corner from their own. So it's going to be so important moving forward, but ICAB is just focusing, really keeping everybody out of the fight as best they can. Make sure Cabby is completely separated. Now Lethal is going to try to clutch this one back around, but it's a shutdown coming through for ICAB to get rid of two, and Lethal, try as they might, will be able to get rid of at least one. One is just not going to finish the job.
No, not with how many are still alive and in control of the point. Okay, gonna take Texel out on the way as well. But yeah, that is gonna be a regroup that comes through for both of these teams. Poland, of course, in control of the point here. Managed to hold on to this bomb for Max as well. And Flatix is looking to do some early pressure here. It does manage to get out alive. And now Farouk is going to have this barrier. Ermac with the Kitsune Rush as well. So big tools for Turkey to try and regain control of this point.
Yep, early sound barrier, gonna push some bodies in. You want to try to fund somebody off of that, but it feels like nobody really gets a whole lot of pressure at all. So now you're in a bit of a delicate situation. Kitsune Rush thrown back into your face. You don't have the Texel with that Kitsune Rush to throw back on over. So now it's just Max trying to defend over on the point. Is going to get cleared off here as you get a couple of later picks, but there is plenty of time to regroup. As China realistically might have to be the touch here.
Yeah, right there. These points are going to tick up so quickly that this is going to be last fight territory for potentially Poland if they aren't able to get this point over. So they do have lots to work with here. A lot of space being controlled by Turkey right now. They want to try and stuff this choke point. They don't want to make it easy for Poland to just walk on through. They need to commit something to get towards this point.
Yep, and we're going to see that come through as they're going to be willing to commit on the point. They're eventually going to go and try to chase down China. And remember, nothing else available as of this time. It's going to come down to how many more ultimates can you get online, because you're so outnumbered, so outpaced right now. If you are Team Turkey trying to hang in this one with Flatix gone, this might be a scenario where maybe you simply let this one go. But Lethal decides, nah, we want to end this thing right here, right now. Unfortunately, it's just not going to happen. You're going to clear out. The bright side is that's 3 whole ultimates used there from Poland to bring us to a 5th and final point.
I will say, if there's something I've learned about Turkey in this Atlas map is that they will not let anything just go, which sometimes does work, but yeah, not gonna go their way that time. It's bizarre for the final sub point here on Atlas, the decider of this 4th map. And yeah, it's gonna be this bomb still ready to go here from Max, and ICAP is building up to this override protocol as well. This is one of those points, like you mentioned, Hunter, it's a little bit more of kind of open space here, so you're gonna have to do some really fancy footwork if you're Turkey to find your way out of that override protocol.
Yep, ICAP has that ready to go, is immediately going to get pressure and will go down as a result. And now things getting rough out here. Cappy is going to have to let go of this Max. Should be able to realistically maintain it, but good, just steps too far forward. Gets taken out, and now things still alive. Max has that bomb hanging over on the point. Is able to gain back most of their health in the process as well. And you don't realistically have the ult to take this one back. Still, Max is eventually going to get taken care of. Bomb to be able to remac is going to hide away smartly. So, with the way this has gone down, Rain, it's so back and forth. Barrier going to be used here from Farouk, but still, no one is really willing to go down, Rain. It is a war of attrition, one that Poland is slowly losing.
Yes, the big picks onto ICAV and China there to open things out. And taking down the DPS for Poland is just going to make it so hard for them to stay in this fight. Yeah, Max taking a swim as well. But that was a very long extended fight, but the first percentage is going to go the way of Turkey here. And they have this Kitsune Rush to work with. Lethal has built up this override protocol for himself. Now, I think what I'd really like to see Turkey do to try and kind of win this out, they're taking a lot of space right now, but you need to have some of these cooldowns committed from Poland before you go for this Kitsune Rush, because they don't only have the Kitsune Rush to work with, they also have this beat which they can commit in if they feel like they're not getting the better of that Kitsune Rush trade.
Yep, you would love to, and here you go. Sound Barrier going to be used here. Kitsune Rush is thrown over on one side. Texel debating whether or not we have to use it, and eventually the choice is yes, we need to try to clear this one up, but still, nobody going down. Ermax now found a second one with those kunai, and now they are clearing out bodies. Max is going to get hard staggered here, and now it is desperation time for Team Poland.
It just seems like Turkey has just really found their stride here on Atlas and approaching last fight here. Nothing in the bank for Poland to try and work with. And not only is there going to be the pulse bomb ready to go from Flatix, but Cabby has the bomb building up as well. It looks like China is going to at least be able to trigger the overtime for Poland.
Yeah, it's going to pull back at least Lethal for the time being, so we'll see what that kind of brings over as we're trying to force some bodies back. They eventually are going to make their way back and cause a little bit of disruption. The closest thing you have, though, is ICAV. Cabby is going to have the bomb here. The longer this goes on, the more that bomb is going to be worthwhile to work with, because it's going to force bodies over off of this point. The question is, how long does Cabby wait to end up using this thing? Because where they're at right now, I wouldn't say is an ideal spot, as the free flip kind of comes through here. And unfortunately, I don't know how well that's going to work out for them. It comes down to ICAV to clutch this one up. Unfortunately, ICAV Brain, they are so far back away from the point, to the point where they are not finding anything off of this. The team is falling apart around them. The flip is going to come back through momentarily, kind of doing their best to stay in this one, but with them being cleared out, all you can do is leak on one at a time, but even that won't happen, as it'll be tied up once more. It's going to be 2 apiece.
Fantastic showing from Turkey. A little nervous, I think, on some of those earlier kind of sub points, but really kind of locked in for the later half there. And Ermac on this Kiriko, oh, it's so cute. But honestly, the supports, I think, for both teams really had a very, very strong showing here. Turkey's backline stayed alive longer in these fights than maybe they should have, honestly. Cabby kind of getting demexed early, and then it's your supports that are really keeping you alive in this fight. Really fantastic showing from them. So I'm very impressed, and nice to see them win out on their map pick here and tying this series up. I mean, this has the potential really to go the distance here.
Yeah, that's the crazy part. It definitely does. And now you're in a weird scenario where, again, teams keep finding ways to get the one-up on each other. And I like the way that they're both going about this and trying slightly different things. They never go any variation that feels too far from the norm. They know what they're good at. They know what they want to go with. And now, as we see that 5th map in place, Runasapi, as, again, it's the one map type we haven't had yet, which is push. We'll see if either teams want to make any swaps realistically, because Cabby and Dirt have been going back and forth quite a little bit. That support line for Poland has changed up a couple of times already. But one thing that has maintained the same have been this DPS line for both teams.
Yeah, and the DPS have been absolutely phenomenal. Seeing a lot of this kind of Tracer matchup of China versus Flatix, and I think that, fairly evenly matched, honestly, in terms of kind of winning out in their own duels, but also in kind of finding those kind of cleanup kills in tandem with your team. Did seem like Flatix was maybe pushing a little bit too far on the Tracer, sometimes getting a little bit too hungry for those kind of staggered out kills, but Turkey was usually there to kind of back it up, and I have to say, I am very impressed at just how scrappy Turkey has been and how they've been able to kind of maintain themselves in these fights. Usually I do not like to see that on Flashpoint maps. I like to see kind of clean resets, those points, like, they tick up so quickly that you need to get as many kind of fights in as you can, but Turkey somehow managing to kind of pull fight wins out of nowhere, and I think that as we head into Runasapi, that might benefit them as well, where you can go for these kind of scrappier, long fights, especially if you have kind of that forward checkpoint. It really can give you an advantage here, so I'm interested to see, of course, what the bans are going to be coming out, because, of course, now we're in map number 5. We are kind of down to the wire here, but these teams have saved some of those really impactful bans for the end.
Yeah, especially so as you think... Oh, golly, Phil. But yeah, we see the M-Ray ban go through for Team Poland here. And again, it's worthwhile, because while it was really back and forth between them both, I think Lethal ultimately was maybe getting a slightly more on the one-up in some of these exchanges. In just cutting out the M-Ray, I think it's fine. It's worthwhile. I don't think it's the most impactful ban you could have thrown out, but I think it is a very worthwhile ban given the situation.
Yeah, I think so as well. Also, Team Poland maybe going to move ICAV back over onto the Sojourn. I thought that he had a pretty good showing on that. And Runasapi, a lot of these really long sight lines. So that M-Ray ultimate can be very, very scary. No fall-off damage for it, as far as I'm aware. So you really can just kind of power shots into the back line and find the opening picks very easily. So it is going to be a Domina ban coming out in response here. So that, of course, does make sense. We've been seeing Poland play a decent amount of that Domina. Max doing a great job, and I think also the Domina from Max, I'm very impressed with kind of the timing on the pushes that Max has, where there'll be a dive that comes in from Turkiye, and then it's just kind of a slam into the wall from the Domina, and then all of that follow-up damage. So I think that yeah, it's a good ban here. So we're making sure that the proper heroes are banned out in the lobby.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Yeah. So yeah, they just accidentally, I think, left in the Soj ban that was in the last game. So nothing changing. The bans are still the same. The M-Ray's gone. Domina's gone. Nothing changes as we fix things back up. And now, take 2, we head back into Runasapi.
All right, we'll have to see what we're going to end up on here. Definitely still anticipating to see some Tracer gameplay. Probably going to see ICAV and Lethal move over onto that Sojourn as well. And then maybe just back onto the diva here. Like, we could just end up back on this kind of diva and then the Lucio Kiriko composition. And that's the thing about when you have these DPS bans come in, like the M-Rate ban. Yes, he's in a good spot, but you can just sub in so many other DPS to kind of fill that same role.
You 100% can. The DPS category is so extensive to the point where one ban isn't going to stop you from doing whatever you want to do. You've seen ICAP go into who knows how many different hit scans throughout the day. We're seeing the Cassidy come online to get things started, which honestly I think is appropriate. Because with Flatix coming out very likely on this Tracer, you want to have something like the Cassidy that's able to shut the Tracer down extremely quickly. And I think a little further back, I think ICAP was finding a lot of success with that back on Lijiang Tower. So we'll see if it can be replicated for our 5th map of the series, Runasapi.
Yeah, we'll see. I like ICAB on this Cassidy because it's going to allow China on this Tracer to go a little bit more aggressive. Not always going to have to taking that 1v1 duel against Flatix here. So it's going to be both teams kind of meeting out towards this mega health pack here. And in a near mirror matchup, it is once again going to come down to kind of force these cooldowns out. Which team is going to make the mistake first and which team is going to be able to capitalize on that?
Yeah, right now, you see right now, Flipper, Eggs, Farouk, Ermac, they want to play as safe as possible because China Flatix definitely preoccupied with one another for the time being, but the moment one of them takes care of the other, it could be a very quick snowball from there. As you see, Max would love to get that boot off the ground, but there it is. Flatix gets the better of China, and that's going to enable you to start running on forward. You see already the support getting forced back. Max going to be dropped out of the mech. This first fight going to be done, dusted away, as Turkey going to be able to get this bot moving.
All right, yeah, some early progress here is great for them to get started. It is going to be Flatix that's on bot duty for now, as everybody else from the side of Turkey had pushed up very, very far here, looking to maybe get an early pick. They have a lot of movement cooldowns here, so you are able to kind of back out from that, and that's going to be really the important difference maker here between this Cassidy and this Sojourn, is that ICAP is going to be a much more stable target here for Turkey to try and deal with.
Much more stable. And now you're going to be able to play this corner right here. It's going to give you the ability to kind of keep standing around this corner, because it is a little more difficult to take an aggressive angle if you are someone like Lethal or Ermac, because you can be punished so clearly by China or ICAV. But the biggest part of this Kitsune Rush is online first for Ermac. You get all this room to deal with, and ICAV, they might be able to get rid of one with the Dead Eye. The question is it going to be enough to clutch this one up? And the answer is very quickly becoming no, as we're going to have the checkpoint come through in just 2 minutes flat.
Yeah, this is a very, very quick checkpoint here for Turkey. Now, China is still kind of lurking behind and has this pulse bomb nearly ready to go. Has to play patient, though. Has to wait for the rest of Poland to get back into this fight. Eggs nearly has the Kitsune Rush here, so that could be kind of the burst out that Poland needs.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. Oh my god. But Sound Barrier is going to be available for both very quickly. Flipper has it. Farouk directly around the corner. Flipper is going to be willing to let it loose, though. Farouk needs to get this back in the next couple of seconds to avoid potentially having to use the bomb to remac that they have. And now you'll see the aggression around the corner. Eggs is probably going to have to let go with the Kitsune Rush momentarily to give them a little bit of space to work with. But Cappy is going to get remacked in the process, able to get back in there. But Ermac gone means you lose all that sustainability, and 68 meters might be all you get. You're hanging in there as best you can. But Rain, I think with Max still in the mech, this should eventually come to its natural end, but still, to go 3 minutes in, have 73 meters already, that's fantastic.
It is, especially because Cabby is gonna get this forward spawn here, so Turkey had this opportunity to just take a fight back at this main spot here. Now, ults are ready to go here for the side of Poland. This bomb from Max is gonna have a little bit more kind of space to work with here now that we're back towards the center, and ICAP with this Deadeye as well. I mean, it's 2 zoning ults at the disposal here for Poland. Unfortunately, Eggs has left the game.
Oh, that is unfortunate. By the way, fun thing, by the way, this is slightly off topic. High rack attack for the follow. That's crazy.
Welcome.
Welcome. Hi, rack. Hello. Hello, hi. But yeah, quick pause right there. As again, we have someone pretty much dropping out like every single map. What's going on with the Polish internet?
Poland, yeah. Poland just having a little bit of a struggle here, taking turns hitting the DCs. At least Eggs did use that Kitsune Rush again. Like, when we have these DCs that come through, of course, that means that you're going to lose any and all ult charge that you have for the fight. So this is going to be very, very rough for Poland when Eggs does reconnect, because you're going to be all the way back at your spawn. You don't have forward spawn, so you are walking that long distance, and that's going to allow this control of the bot to once go in the way of Turkey, and they just have been making so much progress. I don't even think that the forward spawn has actually been removed yet, so they still have forward spawns to work with.
Yeah, they do. It will be fascinating because everyone realistically gets back for this one, as it looks like we are going to be ready to go momentarily. But you see this little bit of staggering going on the point as we'll kind of shift back over, Rain, as we're ready to get this thing back in action. ICAV still having a Deadeye, but with eggs down, unfortunately, you don't really have the capabilities of sticking in this one right now. Or maybe you do, ICAV. Okay, maybe I don't know your game. Maybe I'm not quite familiar. But eventually the numbers game is going to play its benefactor.
Yeah, and that is going to be lethal taken down on the side of Turkey, so at least you are going to have to wait a little bit here for the Sojourn to make a reappearance. But already with Cabby kind of set up on this high ground, just making it as difficult as possible for Poland to try and find their way back into this. And again, they have this Deadeye and they have this bomb ready to go. It's just a matter of kind of finding a safe spot to use this Deadeye, because you know that that's going to be an initial target.
Yeah, it will. China gets the initial blow, though, to get them going again. The Tracer Movement one's been kind of going their way, and now they use multiple ultimates here, trying to move themselves forward, get a little bit more progression, as ICAV going to get nothing off of this Deadeye. So things in a bit of a compromised position as ICAV getting poked away is managing to stabilize and stay alive through this entire engagement. And it's such a back and forth thing, Rain. It's so messy between these squads. Remember, Lethal and FlatX want to take full advantage. They're trying to, but it's Flipper with the immediate clapback here with the sound barrier to get them a little bit more space. But to be fair, no matter how this goes, if you're Turkey, you're happy. You are burning time off this clock so efficiently that even if you lose this fight, you're making it more and more difficult for Team Poland to stay in this one.
Gonna commit the bomb in as well. Cabby's gonna actually get the remech as well. The pulse bomb on no, so immediately right back out of that mech. But like you mentioned, Hunter, it's all about just burning time off this clock. You're still somehow managing to push the spot forward just a tiny little bit. And Turkey just really, really seems to love these scrappy fights.
They definitely do, and still 83 meters to nil right now. Farouk able to sustain them a little while longer. Max needs to try to find this remech. Looks like they will indeed be able to, but no, they get taken out at the last second by Farouk. And now, with that, somehow Turkey are going to keep staying in this one. In fact, I think they're going to progress this lead even further.
Yeah, and you know what? It's gonna prompt a swap here from Poland. Max is actually gonna move. Max is gonna move over onto the Zarya here. So yeah, trying to kind of counter out Zabby. But honestly, I really do think that it's kind of these DPS that have been giving the most problems here for Poland. China over onto this Vendetta as well, though. So now Poland are looking to do what they did in the first map. They're looking to go for these fast and aggressive hits.
Definitely trying to continue rush, use your bikes to get a little bit more space. Ermac has theirs around the corner, but Rain, all this really is doing is just providing a little bit more space, but Lethal gets taken out, so maybe you find yourself a little inherent value here. But I kept getting rid of the second one of the fight, just trying to clear out Cabby and the rest of the supports hanging around. Cab gets the third one of the fight, gets rid of 4, and Cabby the last one remaining. It's going to potentially be the ace, but they're not going to give it over. China now on that Vendetta will clean things up.
Oh my gosh, that is the showing that was needed here, and you know what? This might be the swing that Poland really needed here. A little bit of an adjustment in the play style, and so far turning out very nicely. They are going to take away that forward spawn, but not before everybody from Turkey did get that forward spawn. So it's going to be another fight win that's needed here for Poland to really gain a lot more of this progression.
No, definitely so. I like Max being over on this Zarya now as well as ICAV. Go with the Deadeye, get the direct stick, but it's a perfectly timed cleanse here to keep them going. But Deadeye only going to buy them a little bit of time, a little bit of space to work with. Flipper has to let go of the sound barrier because Lethal is going in aggressively with this overclock. Unfortunately, doesn't work out too well. China has cut down multiple bodies now as Cabby doing their best to stay alive. Won't be able to, and now Team Poland finally some true momentum on their side.
Yes, this is massive for them, and you know what? The beats from Flipper have been absolutely fantastic throughout this entire series, and I really like the follow-up that Poland does. It's not a beat, and then we're gonna stand here and like hang out and just hope that something happens. It's a beat, and then we are going hard onto that backline. And with China on this Vendetta now, it is going to be even easier for them to really kind of confirm those initial picks. So excellent stuff here. They are pushing towards this checkpoint, but there is gonna be a slight contest that comes through.
Yep, and now it's a full contest that's coming through, but ICAV gets such a significant blow early on over onto Flatex. You see China has kind of run out of there momentarily, but there's so much sustainability still sitting by. Flipper getting all the pressure in the world. It's eventually going to work out right here as Max needs to try to stay alive, try to burn Cabby, but Cabby still has care, still has a remake available as well, so they're going to be able to sustain around the corner. Would love to get rid of Max, and somehow get the ruin over onto Max. ICAV is down. Cabby almost single-handedly is going to try to pull this one back around as they have all the care still in the world. They have to back off momentarily, let FlatX take over for the time being. If they can find the flip over to the checkpoint, it's worth it, as with that, they're free to back out and regroup.
Yeah, great job there from Eggs just to stay on that payload for the one more step the bot needed to take. So that is going to be the forward spawns gained here, and everybody from Poland is going to be able to regroup. So many ults for them to work with here, and unfortunately for the side of Turkey, now you are pushing into a pretty big advantage.
Yeah, definitely so. Heading in, still Graviton Surge available. You have that devastating combo with the Graviton Surge as well as that Sundering Blade. So it's going to come down, honestly, to Cabby of whether or not you can eat this, whether you can put yourself in a position as Deadeye is going to offer you a little more space to work with as you're able to get back to your original positioning. But still, you're basically going to try to use everything within this fight to put yourself in a position. And the thing is, it doesn't even guarantee you taking the lead either, as you're going to see it come down. You're going to see Cabby barely get out of there. And again, ICAV, who is just finding so many early picks for the squad, push them on forward. And now we'll see a slight regroup as this is swinging back the way of Poland, potentially.
Yeah, this is a lot of momentum being gained here for Poland. They hold on to the grab as well. Now, Turkey have been doing a good job playing very, very split right now, so it is really just going to be probably a solo grab, maybe try to catch two in it, but it's going to be value nonetheless because Poland are getting very
Yeah, but it's not going to go there quite yet. Lethal around the corner from having this overclock as well. This Graviton Surge literally is make or break for this entire round. If this is eaten here by Cabby, it puts you in such a vulnerable situation. You solo grab Lethal, who has all the care in the world, still managed to find one, and he's managing to stay up as well. Pulling through everything they had into this one. And while they find the D-Mech over on the Cabby, it's not going to work out. China's the last one alive. They're not going to touch this point. It is going to be match point coming up here for Team Turkey. They stop the comeback at the last possible second.
Oh, the grab, it had so much potential there, but unfortunately you grab Lethal up onto the high ground, and yeah, the Kiriko is there to provide the healing. So fantastic job from Turkey. And honestly, those last couple of fights might have been the cleanest from both teams that we saw all throughout Runastapi. Great job disengaging from those Kitsune rushes, going in for the re-engage with an ultimate of your own. ICAV on this Cassidy also very, very impressive stuff throughout the entire map. Really did do the job that he needed to in keeping that Tracer in check.
No, 100% so. That is insane right there, as oh, there is actually a lot of GGs in the chat right now. Maybe misinformation? some slight misinformation has come through potentially. Well, I was like, oh my god, this thing could go all 7. Well, he went all 5. I give you that.
We take that. Dang, okay. Yeah, we thought that this was going to be a first to 4 here, but holy moly. Turkey, fantastic job throughout the series, and winning out on that map pick of Poland as well was really just kind of the nail in the coffin here. Excellent stuff for them, and what a fun match to get to watch.
Yeah, no, that is phenomenal. Wow. Like, I think this is genuinely a game where if it was first to 4, I think we'd be seeing 7 maps.
Same.
Absolutely we would. That is insanity from both of these teams. And to be fair, if you needed a feeling in the back of your head saying, man, is Turkey, Poland going to be good coming up for the World Cup? I think the answer feels like a pretty sincere yes right now.
I think that we saw these teams improve, like, just throughout the series. Like, they seriously locked in so hard, really kind of tightened up a lot of this macro. Those disengages from those ultimates are really, really what's going to make or break some of these top-level teams, is knowing how to react when your opponent swings first. So I think that this is just, the beginning for these teams, because, again, they still have, 3 weeks here until it is that Conference Cup, and we are going to see these teams tighten these ships up even further.
Yeah, definitely so. It's going to be really entertaining to see what we have. Again, 3 more weeks until we get into those EMEA Conference Cups, where both these teams are competing in it. It is only the top 5 teams, though, Rain, that are going to move on, so no guarantees. It's going to be a difficult journey, just as it was a difficult journey for Puerto Rico, for Chile, for Argentina, that had to be in the top 3 out of 9 teams to move on. It was a serious week of competition, and I'm really excited for what EMEA is going to be able to do, but we're ready to get out of the year. Rain, any final thoughts before they close this one out? Because this has been a very hectic day already.
It has been. I gotta say, I am very impressed with Turkey. Like you mentioned, there's a lot of like new players coming up on this roster that haven't had a really chance to kind of shine on this world stage. And I think that from what we've seen so far, definitely a fantastic showing from them. But Poland also really clean kind of in the macro understanding here. Got a little bit caught up, I think, in the chaos that Team Turkey was throwing their way. But yeah, I think that it's really going to show that there's so much talent that's going to be coming to this Conference Cup. So people are not going to want to miss that in April.
No, not at all. It's going to be so much fun. But of course, I want to thank everyone over on both Team Poland and Team Turkey for helping make this show match happen, for helping bring us in. Of course, the lovely Rain for joining me here for this game here today. And of course, everybody that came out to watch this game. So hopefully there's a little more action down the line. I don't know when the next show match is personally going to happen. There is one happening at like 9 a.m. tomorrow between Hong Kong and Philippines. So if you're an early riser, hey, that's something to look out for. But hey, again, I appreciate y'all being out here. It was a fantastic game. I'm happy to see both these teams a little later down the line in what they can do once we get to those real big matchups. For everybody, have yourselves a fantastic evening, afternoon, wherever you may be in the world. We'll see you next time for some more Overwatch World Cup action. Take care.